Greetings from Maryland, one of the original 13 colonies. It became the 7th state to join the Union on April 28, 1788. Its over 5.5 million people make it the 19th most populous state in America. One of Maryland's most treasured landmarks is the Baltimore Basilica, America's first Catholic cathedral. It was designed by Benjamin Latrobe, the father of American architecture, who also created the U.S. Capitol. At the time of its completion in 1821, the basilica was considered a monument to the state's founding principle of religious freedom, a fact not lost on Maryland native comedian Lewis Black.
Jews, of which I'm one, consider themselves the chosen, but we in Maryland would like, when we privately talk among each other, say, we are the chosen. And we usually do it very quietly.
Indeed, Marylanders do pride themselves on being special and point to an eclectic group of luminaries who hail from the state, including jazz singer Billie Holiday, rock star Frank Zappa, and Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. And if they were alive today, they'd probably disagree on the answer to an age-old Maryland question.
Maryland is very definitely a southern state.
Probably more northern than southern.
Maryland is both northern and southern. It's a border state. It was split in the Civil War.
Maryland never seceded from the Union, even though many of its residents were staunch Confederate sympathizers. In fact, the first blood of the Civil War was spilled on the streets of Baltimore, when Union soldiers heading to Washington marched through the city from one train station to another.
April 19th, more troops came, the 6th Massachusetts. And when they came, they were met by an angry mob of Southern sympathizers.
Many Marylanders viewed the federal troops as an invading army and attacked, throwing paving stones and shooting pistols. The terrified soldiers fired back. 4 of them were killed, along with about a dozen civilians. The next month, President Lincoln declared martial law.
They arrested the mayor, they arrested prominent men in the city, and they were basically held at Fort McHenry until the end of the war because they could not be trusted.
One of those imprisoned in Fort McHenry was the grandson of Francis Scott Key, a Marylander who gained lasting fame by writing a poem called The Star-Spangled Banner. Key composed his memorable lyric after witnessing the British bombardment of the fort during the War of 1812.
At 6:30 a.m. on September 13th, 1814, the British fleet started to bombard Fort McHenry. When the Battle of Baltimore ended at 7 a.m., when the last bomb and rocket flew over the ramparts of Fort McHenry, nobody in Baltimore knew what had happened. Did we win? Did we lose? Francis Scott Key was asking himself the very same question.
The answer came when the Americans raised their flag over the fort.
We won. The British were leaving. And so it's at that moment that, overcome with emotion, Key just starts to write down what he was thinking and feeling. It just spills out of him.
Certainly, Francis Scott Key never imagined that his words would one day be sung at Camden Yards before every Baltimore Orioles ballgame. But the atmosphere here goes beyond local pride in the origins of the national anthem. For baseball fans, Camden Yards itself is hallowed ground. Center field at Camden Yards was the exact location of Babe Ruth's father's tavern, where the young Ruth lived until he was 7 years old. The Orioles have been a Maryland passion since joining the major leagues in the 1950s. So you'd think that baseball might be the state's official team sport, right? Wrong. Maryland's official game originated with the Native Americans.
Lacrosse is our team state sport. It's the oldest team sport in North America, and it's been played in Maryland for about 100 years.
Skills and strategy of basketball, the hand-eye coordination of hockey, some of the strategies on the physical play of football. It appeals to a lot of different types of people that are interested in different sports.
Another popular sport in Maryland is fox hunting. It combines the state's love for horses and the outdoors with the thrill of the chase.
The fun is to jump the fences, gallop across the fields, go through the woods on the trails, and stay with the hounds until the end of the chase. And he's safe in there, or he just evaporates and we can't find him. You need to be a pretty damn good horseman. You better have a good horse, and you better be able to ride it, or you're either not going to make it, or you're going to get hurt, or something untoward might happen.
Another Maryland tradition that's almost as old as fox hunting is the annual tossing of the caps by new graduates of the U.S. Naval Academy. The Academy makes its home in Annapolis, a colonial city that boasts the oldest state house in the country still in legislative use. Annapolis sits near the Chesapeake Bay, the great body of water that divides the state into 2 distinct territories that have one thing in common.
People come to Maryland and they must eat a crab. And part of it is not just the sweet meat that comes out of the crab, it's the whole social event with eating the crabs.
There was a slogan, and it must have been for about 8 minutes, and which was "Maryland is for crabs," which was really, even a 15-year-old would get that there's some sort of a very bad kind of innuendo there that is totally unnecessary for a state to put on itself.
Within the borders of Maryland, you'll find a unique tract of land, 61 square miles, ceded to the nation from the state. It is a city where some of America's most powerful people work, and where some of the world's most important decisions are made. Yet the thousands of U.S. citizens who live here exist in a kind of democratic limbo. It's the District of Columbia.
To have full representation, which would basically make us a city-state in that we would have 2 senators and a voting congressional representative.
The district is represented by 1 member of Congress, now in her 8th term. But while Eleanor Holmes Norton carries the responsibilities of office, can vote in committees, and is called Congresswoman, she does not have the right to vote on the House floor.
Right to vote, to have somebody to vote one way or the other before people are sent to war. That right, District of Columbia residents have never had.
Look here, I'm talking about America, sweet America.